Okay, so my name is Tyler Getz. For those of you who don't know me, I'm from Mansfield, Ohio. I was asked to give a presentation about our trip we took down to Asheville to help with some disaster relief down there. Um, there was a group of us from the Mansfield area that felt the need to go down and assist with all the flooding and the help down there. We had some knowledge and some abilities, and we felt called to go down there and see if we can put them to good work. Um, this happened, I believe it was October, right? October, right in that area. So basically, just to give you kind of a gist of it, what ended up happening was a week before, my dad and my brother Austin ended up flying down to Asheville area into Boone County Airport to meet with Samaritan's Purse and some other operations that were running in that area to kind of find out what the need was. So we had a game plan before we went. Um, they ended up in Boone County, which was where the initial thought was that the need was going to be. It turned out that a lot of the stuff that was there was going to be, carpentry type stuff and replacing roofs and fixing all that kind of stuff. Which what we were geared to be doing was equipment operating. So we had a group of operators and machines that were able to go down and do that. So we were not at that point geared to go that direction. So they kind of meandered down into the Asheville area. And when they got down in there, they got connected with a group called Savage Freedoms, which Savage Freedoms is a volunteer organization that was started by a guy named Adam Smith. He's a retired special forces, and the organization they were running was run like it was a retired special forces. They had I mean, they had ranks and they called each other commanders, and like that's what they did. But it was efficient, and they got volunteers from all over the place, current duty and active duty and retired, all kinds of people and all kinds of other volunteers coming from all over the country to stop and fall in rank with them and figure out how to disseminate all the help that they could get and organize any people coming in and resources coming in. And that's kind of what they were doing. So you see all over the news, a lot of times there was private helicopters flying around, all that kind of stuff. That was these people. They mostly flew in and out of a Harley Davidson dealership that they had set up there that they kind of assumed it was at one point flooded, and they got it all kind of cleaned out. It was still dirty and whatever else, but all the stuff was out, and they had the whole parking lot to themselves, and they were set up like a little landing zone, and they were flying multiple helicopters in and out and bringing in pallets and um, trucks of supplies and food and clothes and everything that they could disseminate to the people. And then as volunteers came up, they could check into them, tell them what kind of skill sets they had. They would pick apart whatever requests they were getting and distribute help to wherever they could get that help. Um, so that's kind of the basis of what their operation was. So our mission kind of changed location a little bit, but it was still the same goal. So what we ended up doing was we had a group of about 20 people. Some were from our local Mansfield congregation. Some were from other churches in our area. Mostly made up of people that we knew or had another connection down the food chain from contractors, operators in our area. Being we are in that kind of a business, we know a few people, so we just started picking up the phone and calling people, and they responded. And so a lot of these guys, they showed up. They said, "That's awesome. Let's go. How many pieces of equipment do you want? How many guys you want?" And they just brought it with us. So we ended up with 4 excavators, 5 skid loaders, a dingo, and a little wheel loader used to haul trees around. So that was kind of our operation. Um, we had a group of some businesses in the area that donated food and supplies, which was mostly for us. They had bread donated. We had a local meat shop donated a bunch of meat for us, and chips and things of that nature. So I always like to point out that it was a big sacrifice for all the people that went. There was a lot of expense, there was a lot of effort, there's a lot there. But I will tell you, eating was never a problem. We had food for us was great. Um, the the mission started. We went down. We met at my dad's shop, and we put everybody together. We had a whole convoy of people. As you can kind of see here, there was 4 semis. We had a truck and a gooseneck trailer, and 3 trucks and campers going down to set up our our campsite down there. And that was where we went with that. A lot of those things, we had quite a few donations. A couple of the semis actually all the semis were donated. Some of them were of people that were actually going. A few of them were people that said, hey, I can't go, but here's a semi and trailer, take it with you, make this stuff happen. One of them was, hey, I can't spare one of my semis, but let me pay for a rental truck so that you can go down there and do that. We had 350 gallons of fuel was donated so that we could make it down there with all those trucks, which really drink up a lot of fuel. So that went a long way for us. We were contacted by the foundation, and we were able to receive a donation from them for $50,000 to buy. We bought about 600 heaters, and that money was something that we could get right away during the planning stages while we were building up to this for about 2 weeks. And we got those heaters and we shipped them straight down there. And in October, it was still cold down there. There's a lot of people that didn't have any heat or anything that they could stay warm with. So we were able to send them some heaters, and they dispersed those out very quickly. That was something that people were very, very benefited by. It was not in any way gone to waste. So I want to do is I want to show a Facebook. Oh goodness! Of course it does that to me. Sorry. There was a Facebook link here that was set up by the group of us going down there, and this kind of just shows you. Why is it not loading? This always does this to me. All right, so we're gonna skip the Facebook thing. This is the page, and it will load. There's several videos of there that kind of put together each one of our days. We were down there for a week, and Alana went through and kind of took all the video and stuff together and like streamed it together in high speed, so you could see a whole full day's worth of stuff in about a minute or two. So if anybody has interest in seeing that, I can give you the link to the Facebook page. I'd like to play a video from that Savage Freedoms put together that is about our program here. Hopefully this volume works good. Is the volume working? I don't think I'm muted. My volume is all the way up. Is there? Okay. So that's all right. We'll just show you what's going on here. This lady is one of the people that we were able to help down there. This is going awesome. No. Do I need to be? Apparently it looks like I need to be. Can you help me with that? I don't know how to find what we're doing. I'll keep talking if you can make that happen. So we were able to directly help about 12 to 15 families directly down there. So the goal when we went was to employ as many people to the site and pick up as much big stuff as we could find. So we would come in and we would do the bulk items. I moved a lot of waterways. There was a lot of waterways that were blocked up with trees and flooding that would spread out. Creeks that were supposed to be this direction, and they would come in the width of the building and then just spread wherever we want. And we were able to direct a lot of these things back to where they came from, back under bridges and through culverts and things of that nature. So we tried to focus our stuff on things where we could actually send as many machines as we had and actually accomplish a lot of good there. The lady that's talking in the video, she is that and play now? Okay. So what we'll do is we'll back this up. Let play. The lady that's talking in this video is one of the people that we helped. Her driveway was completely washed out, as you'll be able to see when we come through here, and the road was separated. So there was a drainage way that went down through the mountains, and it was curvy roads. And on the side, they had culverts under each one of their driveways that would cross these bridges. And we went down, and there was a couple of them that back to back to back that their entire driveways were washed out. They had gullies that were 20, 25 feet wide by 10 feet deep. Their culverts were a half a mile down the road. And that was one of the missions that they were able to put us on. Really not sure what the volume thing is here, but that was our initial mission. So when we went down there, I felt like we were going to run into a war zone. It didn't feel like that way at first. It was one of those things where there was a lot of people needing help, a lot of stuff happening, and there was also a lot of people down there that were helping. There was not much by way of government that I saw. There very little FEMA, but there was a lot of private citizens giving of themselves and their time and their money in order to make these people able to function. Really, it's not bringing them back to whole, but it's getting them back into their houses, getting them in somewhere where they can start to recover. This is what you're seeing here is the driveway entrance, and that was a pretty big gully through there. As the week progressed, it seemed like we would find more and more and more work to do. We went down there. They said that, oh yeah, there'll be plenty of work. It wasn't all lined up right away, but as people started seeing us do things and thing accomplished, the neighbor saw us come up and fix this waterway, and they'd drive up there or walk up there or whatever they could do to get to us and be like, hey, can you come down and fix mine? I got the same problem. So we had a lot of time going in between. We had a group of the guys that were working the whole time. We had 2 or 3 that were coordinating between the Savage Freedoms to find materials such as culverts to put this back together. We were able to come up with 5 or 6 5-foot round by 20-foot culverts in order to put their driveways back together. And that was, I have no idea where they found them. I don't know where they came from. They just showed up one day on a trailer, said, here, put these in. And I was excited. So we were able to install the culverts and get these driveways back together. But that didn't happen by accident. There was enough guys going out there and coordinating all that to find the resources to direct them to where we could use that on site when we were doing our thing. As the week progressed, it felt like the jobs we found were more and more and more involved. As you'll see when we get into the slides, that there's the initial projects were seemingly less detrimental to life and loss and all that kind of stuff. And as we got farther down into the wreckage, we started to see where the real disasters are, and it felt a little bit more real to us. Okay, so I'm going to move on to the picture, something that I know is working. Okay, so this is us in the convoy, and we'll just kind of scroll through. This is the camp that we set up. There was 20 guys or 20 people. There was 4 ladies there that went with us that helped both on the sites and in the campsite, making food and taking care of things for us. Every morning we started with a devotion, as you can see here on the side, that we had some singing and a devotion, and then we went out and we did our thing. So it was nice. The top right picture you see there is the FEMA facility that was set up. That was actually directly across the street from us, which worked out really nice. We were camped actually in a prison yard, which was a little bit questionable at first, but we found that there was fence all the way around it, and it was in the out yard across the street, so it was not an issue. But that FEMA site was directly across the street from us, which it had bathrooms and showers and washing machines and some stuff like that, which was open to the public, so people could come in there and use it, because obviously a lot of their stuff was gone. So this was accessible to them and worked out really, really well for us. The soldiers there on the right are guardsmen that were stationed at the FEMA place across the street. They came over every day, and we saw them at breakfast, lunch, and dinner. I believe lunch, at least lunch. I was not there ever for lunch. I was out working, but I was told that they stopped in there, and we were able to provide a lot of food for the volunteers that were over on the other side. They'd come over and they would take our food and go back and feed all the volunteers on the FEMA side as well, so that we could do that. And the one day they did join us in our devotions as well. So it was nice to have contact, to be with them, and to see that everybody is pushing towards the same goal here. These are just pictures of the piles of boxes that we took down. We did have a clothing drive as well to go with the donations. So we had 5 or 6 areas around the city that had drop off zones, and we were able to gather up about 2/3 of a full semi trailer of new and lightly used clothes. We had a group of people the weeks before going through and sorting through everything and making sure that it was something that they could actually use and wasn't destroyed or whatever else, and sorting it into sizes and type of clothing so that it can be efficiently distributed. And this was just pictures at the facility. More pictures of what we were setting down there. So this was the first job site we went to. It was a waterway that came through and was clearly moved. The water was quite high where it was supposed to be just a creek, and ended up in the guy's house all the way up in there to the right. And it was probably 3 to 4 feet all the way through there, water just everywhere. So it had to be completely gutted and everything that was in there taken out. Trees and branches all over the place. So what you would find as we walked down there was piles like these everywhere. Everywhere you would drive, they would have piles like that. Some of it had trash and cars and anything you could find that they could just gather up in piles and push off the side so you can maintain through. And then there was brush piles and anything else. Just is as much of an effort to open water driveways and paths and transportation as possible. And then they were coming back in later and loading piles out and distributing that out of there. So we were able to move his waterway back and get it back somewhere where they could actually access it and have hope of rebuilding that thing without it being flooded again. And this is kind of the end product of what it looked like. Like I said earlier, we had neighbors coming up and finding us, and this was a neighboring property to the one we just did. There's a car down here in the lower right. That was part of the dam that was blocking the waterway under that bridge. So obviously the upriver, where the one we just fixed, was caused by stuff like this. So we went in there and cleaned all that out, pulled all the waterway out, and got it running back where it goes. The thing I'd like to note on that is when I got down to this site, I was still up at the last one. I got down there. One of the operators had told me that he was quite excited to go pull a car out from underneath a bridge. He'd never done that before, and he said that as he was getting into it, his tune changed a little bit because he realized that there was 3 people in that car, and one of them died when they got stuck underneath there. So the reality set in pretty quick for him. It was a super cool process to pull the car out, but when you realize what you're doing and why you're doing it, it changes everything about your viewpoint. You're there helping, you're lending hands, doing what you're doing for more than just cool factor, more than just, hey, pat myself on the back that I'm down here, cleaning up all your stuff. And these people needed it. And the reality is starting to set in. The more we sink into this and the more we find it was less superficial and more real. So we were able to get that cleaned out. As you can see there's the waterway coming down in there. We're crawling our excavators down through the rivers. And this is just a kind of a short clip of what that site looked like. We had, like I said, most of the equipment was all on the same site at the same time. So we were able to move a lot of ground and move a lot of stuff quickly and move from site to site. It was a logistical nightmare in the sense that they were mountainous roads, two-lane roads through mountains, curvy up and down. And our mode of transportation was 4 semis with 53-foot flat decks on the back of it. So that was not an easy method to get through. So in and out of each one of these job sites was sending a pilot car ahead. Did that start again? Yeah. Sending a pilot car ahead to make sure that we did not run into any oncoming traffic and making sure the roads are cleared, and it was wide loads all the way through. But that was kind of part of the process. This again is just down the river. Another family member came down to find us, and here's some final pictures of the two jobs that we just completed there, with the waterways back in and the driveways intact, so they could get back to their houses. We had a group of 4 tree specialists that came with chainsaws, and they were pretty much separated from the equipment operators, and they were out chopping trees and pulling trees off of buildings and clearing driveways and you name it, cutting anything that looks like wood and the chainsaw would cut. They pulled it out of there. There was times that we had to mix, and we had equipment there at the same time to help lift some of the stuff off for them. So there was a little bit of that overlap. One of the pieces of equipment we took was a 42-foot, 9,000-pound telehandler, which is what Leonard is floating on up there 50 feet in the air, cutting that tree off. This is one of the guys that went with us, and the smaller guy there was the guy that owned the house with the tree that was on that garage. One thing that we were very diligent about was that at some point, usually at the end of our job, we always went up and talked to them. There was always some sort of message shared. There was always some sort of prayer. Usually the whole group would be there, and we'd have a prayer at the end before we moved on to our next job. So that was what we're doing here. Just showing that we're here. Here's the reason, and here's why we're here, right? Showing the love of God through helping, right? And I don't want it to just be that, hey, this guy came and fixed it. Some guy came and pulled the tree off my house, but he needs to know why we love him, why we're here, why we're from 8 hours away, dragging all this stuff down, leaving our families and everything at our house at home to be here to help you. And the amount of appreciation that was reciprocated was very touching on our end. Here's just some more trees we're cutting through. I know I'm getting a little close on time. There was a lot of trees on that house, or on that garage. One more thing that touched me good on that one is that when I got there, I was the one operating the lift with. So when I got there with the lift, the lady that was living there had told me that there was 4 people in that garage when that tree fell on it. So if you can see on the picture kind of up to the left there, that garage had a tree that was about 3 feet around directly through the middle of it. That's probably a 16 by 20 building with a tree this big right through the middle of it. I have no idea how there was 4 people in there and nobody died, but they were all in there making t-shirts, and that was a miracle, to say the least. And here's just more pictures of the same site. I'll just breeze through some of these pictures. If anybody wants to see more of it, that's there, but it's just kind of a visual. See where we're at. Here's the culverts that we were installing. So the 5-foot round double wall tubing is something that we use to put the driveways back together. As it got worse, we got it later in the week. We found the worst of what we were finding. So this is in a town called Bat Cave. I don't know that I have ever seen anything that's been more destroyed than what I saw down here in Bat Cave. There was a river going underneath this that they say is usually about 50 feet wide, 50 to 60 feet wide. During the flooding part, it was between 200 and 300 feet wide was the average. So if you look at the bridge up there to the left, you can see on the main bridge supports underneath the beams, there's debris up there, which means that the water coming through Bat Cave was probably 20, 25 feet tall or deep and about 200 to 300 feet wide, coming through there down the mountains for miles and miles and miles of water that high. And when you first see it, you don't think too much of it until you see pictures like this. The picture on the left is Batcave. The picture on the right was Batcave when I was standing there. Those are the same things, standing in the same place. So there was no city of Batcave or no town left. There was a few structures, there was a few roads, but all of the buildings, all of the houses, everything that was on that is now somewhere south of wherever they were. I have no idea where it is. So this was the last project that we were on. There was a driveway that's supposed to be, you see the picture to the right, that was supposed to be a driveway up through there next to the guy's house, and that was completely impassable. We ended up going, let me click back to, so the house that you see there we ended up going up the hill, cutting through the guy's yard, making a temporary driveway to get up and around there. And then we ended up with all this stuff that you see here. There was a pile of trees and washout that was every bit of 6 or 7 feet tall by 30, 40 feet wide, right in the middle of that by 80 or so feet long. And it was just intertwined of trees and brush and dirt and mud and anything that washed down into it. And that was our last project, to get that guy up into his house. So obviously Willie had enough. So, and this was just us loading up at the end of the the end of the last day. It was a pretty long day. We worked till about 7 o'clock at night, and then packed up till wee hours in the morning, and then back on the road 7 a.m. coming home that following Saturday. So that's really the gist of what we did. Anybody have any questions or anything I can answer? Okay. Thank you.